Honored guests, fellow, welcome to the third lecture of the fifth Equip series entitled When Pain is No Gain, the Basics of Primary and Secondary Headaches. I am Christine Jessa Quanico, a year level 2 neuro resident, and we will be together with our chief resident, Dr. Al Indijan Pahantoy. We will be moderating this session. So to ensure a smooth and organized proceedings of our webinar, may I humbly remind everyone to please mute their microphones and click the raise hand icon to be acknowledged before speaking. You may also type any concerns or questions at the chat box. To formally start our program, may I humbly request everyone for a moment of grace and silence as we acknowledge God's presence in this morning through a prayer. This will be followed by the singing of the Philippine National Anthem and the Carino Memorial Medical Center hymn.
Please join us in prayer. Dear
Ang paglaling tubig, mahusay na programa sa pagkalusugan at ibayong pagkalinga. Ay nagdahilan, pagdiling ng sama. Ano bang sakit o maluhang kalooban ay bibigyan ng tiyak galing Dalay mo hanggang sa iba. Ay buong pusong gagampanan. Ito ang tapat at tanging sandigan. Sa QMMC ang bayan ay paglilingkuran. Ito ang aming tanging layunin. Mahusay at ligtas sa pagamutan. Makabago at wastong kasangkapan. Mga kawaning may sapat na kakayahan. Na ngayon hanggang sa kinabukasan, tungkulin ay buong pusong gagampanan. Ito ang tapat at tanging sandigan. Sa QMMC ang bayan ay lilingkuran. Mula ngayon hanggang bukasan, tungkulin ay buong pusong gagampanan. Ito ang tapat at tanging sandigan. Sa QMMC, sa QMMC, sa QMMC ang bayan ay paglilingkuran.
So to formally start our lecture for today's Equip series, we will be having a opening remarks to be delivered by no other than the chairwoman of the Center for Neurological Sciences, Department of Adult Neurology, Dr. Maria Victoria G. Manuel.
Headache is one of the most common causes or symptoms which brings patients to a doctor, whether a neurologist or a non-neurologist. But more often than not, since there's a lack of neurologists in the country, patients are seen by non-neurologists. It is therefore our aim to equip non-neurologists, whether doctors or other healthcare workers, with the skills to identify headaches and to decide whether this need urgent neuroimaging or urgent specialty care. We welcome you to this webinar being presented to you by the Quirino Memorial Medical Center, Center for Neurological Sciences, Department of Adult Neurology. Welcome and good morning.
To introduce our guest speaker, may call on our Chief Resident, Dr. Al Indijan A. Pahantoy.
Good morning, everyone. It is my great pleasure and privilege to introduce our speaker for today. Dr. Paul Emmanuel L. Yambao took his Doctor of Medicine from the Angeles Foundation University Incorporated School of Medicine in the year 2014. He took his residency in adult neurology at the Quirino Memorial Medical Center, Center for Neurological Sciences, where he served as the academic chief resident in the year 2020. He passed the adult neurology specialty boards in the same year and was a top-notcher for the World Headache Society Headache and Facial Pain Certification course and certifying exam in 2022. Currently, he is an active consultant of the Medical City Clark. He is also an active consultant of the Philippine Rehabilitation Medical Center and a visiting consultant of the Quirino Memorial Medical Center, Center for Neurological Sciences, and a guest faculty of the Angeles University Foundation Medical Center. Fellow doctors and partners in the healthcare team, please help me welcome Dr. Paul Emmanuel L. Yambao.
Morning, everyone. Let me just share my slides. Good morning, everyone. I hope the audio is clear.
Yes, sir. Loud and clear po.
Thank you. So we often hear the adage, no pain, no gain. But there are circumstances when we do not gain anything from pain. One good example would be for people who are experiencing headaches. So for individuals with severe headaches, they do not gain anything from pain, but they do have losses. They have decreased productivity and even disturbances or disruptions in their social relationships. So again, good morning, everyone. And I am glad to share my insights for today's talk entitled When Pain is No Gain, where we will be addressing and reviewing the common issues in headaches. So this would be the primary objectives of our discussion. So after this discussion, I hope we would be able to describe the proper assessment of a patient with headaches. What questions do we need to ask? And what things do we need to look for patients with headache? We'll also be describing a practical diagnostic approach for patients complaining of headaches. And the last portion would focus on the therapeutics, the possible non-pharmacologic and pharmacologic interventions that we can offer for patients with headaches. So let's start with a clinical scenario. It is a fine Saturday on your outpatient department and 5 consecutive patients complained of headache. They came in and said and verbalized, "Doc, ang sakit po ng ulo ko." So how would you approach these 5 patients with the same complaint? The first patient complained of throbbing unilateral headaches lasting for 5 to 8 hours with photosensitivity and nausea. The second patient is a 75-year-old man with complaints of blurring of vision that is associated with headache, and the headache is aggravated by the chewing movement. The third patient came in because of a band-like pain, headache, with which usually occur after work hours and is associated with cervical discomfort. The next patient came in because of a sudden worst headache of his life, which occurred after sexual contact. And the last patient came in because of headaches that he experiences every morning upon waking up, which is aggravated by straining. So we have 5 patients with different ages and gender with the same complaint. So if you are the doctor or if you have or if you are the primary caregiver, how would you approach this patient? So upon hearing the complaint of your patients, no, you have this following clinical questions. Are you dealing with primary or secondary type of headache? What do you need to ask for and what do you need to look for? Do you have any red flag signs that would guide you that your patient needs emergent imaging or emergent treatment? And what are the possible therapeutic options? So definitely, I hope we would be able to answer these questions confidently as we go along our discussion. First, let's define a headache. So when we speak of a headache, it's any discomfort that is felt above the orbitomeatal line. No? Any pain that is below the orbitomeatal line is already facial pain. So how does headache occur? No? So headache occurs when there is stimulation or irritation of the different pain-sensitive structures in our head. So we do have different extracranial structures and intracranial structures. So when these structures are stimulated, headache can be triggered. So for example, if you have obstruction or compression of your arteries, in the middle meningeal or superficial temporal arteries, that could lead to pain. Or if you have problems on your ears or eyes or sinuses, that could also lead to headache. So in general, again, headache is triggered by the stimulation of your pain-sensitive structures. And the mechanism of how they are stimulated would vary depending on the type of headache. Okay? So I would like to share a practical approach on a patient with headache. So actually, we have 4 basic steps when we are dealing with a patient with headache. Number 1, which is the most crucial step, is we have to identify what type of headache are we dealing. It's very important for us to be confident with our diagnosis. No? Are we dealing with a primary or secondary type of headache? After that, the second step is we have to identify clues that would guide us if your patient needs an emergent or an elective diagnostic. Can this patient wait or he needs an emergency admission? Okay. The third one is to provide the appropriate therapeutic options. And the last one is we have to monitor our patient's response. So identify the type of headache, recognize clues for urgent diagnostics, offer appropriate therapeutic options, and monitor the response. So we'll be discussing this approach as we go along. So again, I have defined what is a headache. It's a pain or discomfort above the orbitomeatal line. No? So we usually encounter patients complaining, "Doc, masakit ang ulo ko." Or for nurses or midwife, "Nurse, masakit ang ulo ko. Matagal na siyang masakit." So the first thing that we need to address is to identify if it is a primary or secondary type of headache. So let's have a review of a primary versus a secondary type of headache. So when you speak of primary headache, these are headaches not linked or directly caused by an underlying pathology. While secondary headaches, these are headaches with a close temporal relationship to an underlying pathology. For example, if you have a brain tumor, you have infection, you have muscle strain, you have affectation of the different pain-sensitive structures on your eye secondary to an organic cause, that is classified as secondary headache. So for primary headaches, since they are not caused directly by an underlying organic medical condition, the imaging tests and the physical examinations are usually normal. No, in general, they are normal. While in secondary headaches, the laboratory tests would show abnormality or significant results depending on the possible cause. And always remember that in secondary headaches, the symptoms are usually progressive and persistent. So I would like to emphasize that in primary headache, the physical examination, the neurological examination is usually normal. However, in some atypical presentations, there could be some abnormalities. But in general, if you have a patient with abnormal physical examination and neurological examination, you have to consider a secondary type of headache. And why do we need to differentiate a primary versus a secondary type of headache? No, it's because recognizing the headache would give us a clue on the possible condition. When we speak of secondary type of headache, these are headaches that are caused by underlying medical conditions, and some of which can lead to death, or could lead to patient's mortality. That is why it's very important for us to act in timely manner, to do the diagnostics emergently or urgently if you have a patient with a secondary type of headache. So going back, when we speak of primary headaches, the common examples would be migraine, tension headache, and your trigeminal headaches like your cluster headache. So if you would see the primary headache like migraine, tension headache, and cluster headaches are not associated to a brain tumor, to a vascular malformation, or anything that is serious. These are the primary headache. While secondary headaches, I would like to emphasize that they are associated to an underlying condition. Kaya nga dapat we are confident that what we are seeing is just a primary headache or a secondary headache. But remember as well that sometimes both can occur concurrently. There are patients who have both primary and secondary type of headaches. So what are these conditions wherein you could experience both conditions? So for example, you have a patient with primary headache and then there is a close temporal relation to another disorder. Or you have a pre-existing primary type of headache and there's a possible change in the pattern of headache. So for example, you have a patient who is a known migrainer who came in because of a change in the characteristic of migraine after a traumatic brain injury or after a vehicular accident. So for this condition, you have to ask yourself if you're only dealing with a primary headache or there is already a possibility of a secondary type of headache. Okay? Sorry. Sorry, let me just fix the pointer. Hello?
Yes, sir.
Meron bang mga sulit-sulit sa screen? Or sa
Yes,
akin lang?
sir.
Yes,
Do you-
sir. Wait lang po.
Sorry for the technical difficulty. Yan, meron pa?
Okay na po, sir.
Okay, sorry for that. So, to continue, it's very important for us to differentiate a primary and secondary type of headache. And how can we differentiate if a patient has a primary or secondary type of headache? Definitely, we have to do a good history taking, and we have to have a good physical and neurological examination. So we have to correlate our findings on the history of the patient and on our neurological examination in order for us to guide what diagnostic tests and what medications are should we offer to our patients. No? So what are the important questions that we need to ask during our history taking for patients with headache? So these questions are from an article written by one of my mentors, Dr. Robbins, entitled Deconstructing the Art of Headache Medicine. So basically, if you have a patient with headache, complaining of headache, you have to ask the headache history. What are the characteristics of your headache? What are the possible triggers? No? What medications is he taking on or into? Family history. You also need to assess the impact of headache on the patient's activities of daily living, no, and other comorbidities that your patient is experiencing. So there are lots of questions which we could ask. So I have placed the title. If you're interested, you could look for this article and download it for free. But I would like to focus on the acronym. I mean the we have to remember Socrates. So when we speak of Socrates, this would help us in remembering the important questions when we have a patient that's having for a headache. So Socrates stands for the site, the onset. You have to know the characteristic, the radiations. Are there associated symptoms? What is the timing or when does the headache occur? What are the exacerbating and relieving factors, and how severe is the headache? So basically, these are the most important questions that you need to ask when you do your history. And definitely, you have to also check on the effects of headache on your patient's activities of daily living. And if the headache is already disrupting him for his personal relationships. So let's discuss this shortly. So site. You have to ask, basically, where does the headache start? Is it unilateral? No? For unilateral headache, this is a common characteristic of migraine headaches. No? But you also have to ask if it migrates or it stays on the same side. Because a headache that occurs on the same side may be a clue for a secondary type of headache like a tumor. Is it periorbital or around the eyes? So if the headache is around the eyes, this can occur for patients with migraine, cluster headache, or even eye problems. Or is it band-like or parang sinasakal yung ulo mo? So this is the common description for patients with tension type of headache or even migraine headache. Or is it on the location of the sinuses? So this would give you a clue that that could be a possible headache secondary to a sinusitis. So it's very important for us to ask the specific location of the headache. How about onset? Is it acute? Is it intermittently occurring, or is it very persistent? No? So for primary headaches, the pattern is usually there is usually it's usually um it can occur and then it would resolve, then it would occur again. No? So this is a characteristic of primary type of headache. While secondary headaches would usually occur persistently for 24/7. No? And we also have to assess or ask if the onset is sudden or acute, or is the headache gradually progressing. Because if there is a gradual progression on the severity of the headache, you have to consider the possibility of a secondary type of headache than a primary type of headache. Next one, characteristic. Is it pulsatile or throbbing? So when you hear a patient na sabi parang may pumipitik, Dok, parang may pumipitik dito sa sentido ko. That is a common characteristic of a migraine type of headache. Pag naman sinabi niyang there is tightness or parang sinasakal po yung ulo ko, you could think primarily of a tension type of headache. Or if your patient would say that it is steady, nandyan lang po siya, hindi nawawala every day, araw-araw for a few months, for a few weeks. So you have to consider possibility of a subacute or chronic causes that could lead to headache, and one of which is intracranial mass. Next one, is it sharp? Some patients would complain of a pain that occurs parang kuryente. Dok, parang may kuryente na mabilis lang na ilang segundong tumutusok dito sa batok ko or sa likod ko, no? So that is a characteristic of neuralgia, no? And that could give you a clue that you are probably dealing with occipital neuralgia, no? Or other, it is also possible for patients with cervical radiculopathy or nerve problem on the cervical area. So it's very important for us to really ask our patient to describe the headache. So just a reminder for everyone, if you're dealing with headache, we have to listen. No? We have to allow our patient to express how he feels the pain. Because pain, remember, is very subjective. And then radiation. Is the pain or the headache localized, or does it spread to other regions? Like, does it spread on the frontal area? No? So this is common for patients with migraine, no? Or does it spread on the occipital area, on the neck area? So this would give you a clue that you might be dealing with a possible occipital neuralgia or cervicogenic headache, or headaches that are related to affectation of our cervical nerves, no? Or muscle spasm on the neck area. Or is it holocranial, no? So sometimes migraine could spread on the whole area of the head, or this can also be experienced by patients with stroke, no? With aneurysm, with hydrocephalus, or even intracranial mass. Next one, we have to ask, are there associated symptoms? So my tip for you is to be specific. Because sometimes, pag tinanong natin ng pasyente natin, meron bang ibang simptomas? And they would think na wala naman kasi hindi related. They would not verbalize it. But if you would help them identify the symptoms, if you would be very specific, like you would ask them, meron bang photosensitivity or nasisilaw ka sa liwanag, may pagsusuka, it would be easier for them to recall. No? So what are these associated symptoms? Is there weight loss? Or is there fever? No? So for patients with headaches, with fever or weight loss, you have to consider the possibility of a systemic or local infection or a neoplastic process. No? So these are clues that you need to further investigate because you might be dealing with a more serious problem. Next, is there diaphoresis as well, no? During headache attacks? Is there pain on the neck or back area? So this could give you a clue that you might be dealing with a cervicogenic type of headache. Is there photosensitivity? You have to ask your patient, pag po ba sumasakit yung ulo nyo, you prefer a very calm, dark room? And you prefer to keep your eyes closed? No? Kasi minsan sasabihin nila they do not have photosensitivity. But when you describe and ask them if they want to stay on a dark room or keep their eyes closed, that is already photosensitivity, but they are not aware. And photosensitivity may be seen for patients with migraine or even CNS infection. Next is their vomiting or nausea. It's very important to ask if this occurs in close temporal relationship with headache. So if you have vomiting, this can be seen on primary type of headache, which is migraine, or this can also be seen to a more serious condition wherein there's increased intracranial pressure. So it's very important for us to correlate all of the puzzle pieces in order to confidently diagnose if you're dealing with a primary or secondary type of headache. Yes, aside from photosensitivity, there is also possibility of changes on vision. Is there blurring of vision? No? Is there change on how they uh perceive objects, no? Because for example, they might be dealing with a loss on one of the portions of their eyes, one eye or one quadrant of their vision, and that could give you a clue that you might be dealing with a more serious problem. Or is there um pain whenever they are straining or doing Valsalva maneuver? It's very important for us to ask this question. Ito, lagi kong nire-remind yung mga students, no, nurses, or even our residents. If you are too busy to ask many questions, one of the more important questions that we have to ask always for a patients with headache is that if they are experiencing increased severity of headache during straining, coughing, or any activity that may stimulate their Valsalva maneuver. Because this would give you a clue that you might be dealing with a headache that causes increased intracranial pressure. Though this can also happen in migraine, but you have to make sure that you are not dealing with a more serious type of headache. Next, timing. When does it occur? Does it occur with this very specific activity, or does it occur the whole day? Does it occur when you're standing, when you're on supine position, or does it occur after alcohol intake? Or does it occur after office hours? Or does it occur after an exercise or a certain activity? So these clues would give you a clue, or I mean, these clues would guide you if you are dealing with a primary versus secondary type of headache. For example, if the headache is more severe upon standing, you might be dealing with a headache that causes CSF dysregulation or low pressure headaches. And if you're having a headache that is more common upon waking up, or it wakes you up in the nighttime, that may be experienced with migraine, cluster headache, or even more serious condition like tumors. No? And if you have a headache that is more common after a specific alcohol or food, you might be dealing with migraine or a cluster type of headache. And if you have a headache that is more common after work, it might be a clue for a tension type of headache. And for migraines that are associated with exercise or specific activity like sexual activity, that you might be dealing with a serious condition, no? Like a headache secondary to a possible aneurysm, no? Or an AV malformation. But there are also certain types of headache, of primary headaches, wherein it is aggravated by physical activity like severe migraine. But remember, you have to make sure that you are not dealing with a secondary type of headache. Next, exacerbating and relieving factors, like, is it positional? I've already mentioned that if the headache is positional, you might be dealing with a more serious type of headache. Is it triggered by food? This is very common for migraine. The common triggers are cheese, fermented food, no? Or is it triggered by coffee, no? Does it wake you up on sleeping, or does it occur because you have lack of sleep? No, so you also have to consider the possibility of sleep disorders causing headaches. And again, Is it aggravated by sneezing or coughing? This is just to emphasize that if you have headaches aggravated by coughing, sneezing, or straining, we have to rule out the possibility of a secondary type of headache. Okay? And the severity. Sometimes we're familiar with the pain scale, right? You have to ask, anong grade po ng headache? Gano'ng kasakit? 1, hindi masakit. 5, nasa kalagitnaan. 10, sobrang sakit. No? Sometimes you ask that to know how severe. But sometimes patients would be having difficulty of understanding the numerical correspondence of pain. So what I do in my practice is to ask, does the pain bother you on your normal activities? Does it bother you from eating, from communicating at work, or does it bother you on your sleep? So if your patient would answer yes, no, if there is already change on the activities of daily living, I would consider the headache to be in moderate to severe type of headache. No? So you always have to ask, how does the headache affects his activities of daily living? Okay? So those are the important questions that we need to ask for. So Socrates. So I hope you remember your Socrates. And the next one for the physical examination, what are the things that you need to focus? First, is there fever, hypertension? Because this would give you a clue on a possibility of a secondary type of headache. For fever, are we dealing with infection? Hypertension, are we dealing with a vascular lesion? No? Are there bleeding tendencies? Signs of HIV or immunocompromised state? Is there teary eyes? Because teary eyes would give you a clue that you might be dealing with a primary headache, specifically cluster headache. Are there affectation of the eyes, ears, nose, and sinuses? You have to check on your sinuses. Or is there blockage of airway on the nasal area? Or is there discharge on the ears? Because this would give you a clue that you might be dealing with a headache secondary to affectation of the eyes, the ears, the nose, or your sinuses. And you always have to check if there is focal neurological deficit. So what do we mean by focal neurological deficit? Is there a change on your patient's sensorium? Is there change on the cranial nerves? Like, is there a ptosis, no? Or is there changes on the patient's extraocular movement? Is there diplopia? Is there weakness? Is there numbness on a certain portion of the body? Because that would give you a clue that if you have a focal deficit, you might be dealing with a secondary type of headache, like a probability of a stroke or a tumor. And we always have to correlate the characteristics of the headache to the findings in physical findings or neurological examination for us to confidently say if we are dealing with primary or secondary type of headache. I would just like to reiterate that the most important and crucial step that we need to do is to differentiate if we're dealing again with primary or secondary type of headache. Okay? And to guide us or to confirm our diagnosis of primary or secondary type of headache, we have to check on any red flag signs and to do a proper diagnostics. No? So I would just like to share this slide. So these are the common physical examination that would give you a clue. So if you remember one of our patients on the clinical scenario, an elderly with a blindness or changes on the vision. So if you have a patient, an elderly patient with headache with changes on the vision, no, and a headache that is aggravated by chewing, you have to think of a temporal artery tenderness caused by a giant cell arteritis. And a giant cell arteritis is can cause secondary type of headache that needs urgent evaluation because that could loss to blindness of your patient. Another one on our clinical scenario, one of the patients in our clinical scenario had a headache that is associated on cervical pain. And that could give you a clue that you might be dealing with a cervicogenic headache or a headache secondary to muscle spasms on your shoulder area. So it's very important for us really to do a good physical and neurological examination. No? I would just like to emphasize this common conditions and common clues. No? So again, we're done with the most important questions and things that we need to look for on our physical and neurological examinations. So when we do interview our patient and when we do our physical examination, actually, we're trying to look for red flags or orange flags. So when we speak of red flags, these are symptoms that encourage further testing or observation of the patient. And most of the times, if you have red flags, you need to advise emergent diagnostics or laboratory procedures in order to determine the root cause of the headache. And some of these medical causes, can be life-threatening. No? So, for us to somehow help remember the red flags, we have the mnemonic SNOOP 10 or SNOOP. No? So, if you have a patient that has any characteristic or anything that is part of SNOOP 10, that means you have a red flag. So if you have a red flag again, you have to further investigate and you have to consider the possibility of a secondary type of headache. So remember, if you have anything part of the SNOOP 10, it is suggestive of secondary type of headache. So what is SNOOP 10? Letter S, systemic signs and disorders. We have mentioned this already. If you have a patient with headache, with fever, weight loss, no, or a patient who is currently on medications for immunocompromised state or malignancy, you have to make sure that you are not dealing with a more serious type of headache. So if you have these patients, no, with systemic signs or clues for a malignancy or immunocompromised state, we are usually more aggressive to those type of patients. Are there neurological symptoms or deficits on your physical examination? Is there changes on the vision? Is there weakness? No? And always remember this O. O, is there a new onset of headache for patients aging 50 years old and above? Always remember this. If you have a patient who's 50 years old or among elderly who complained of first-time headache, you have to focus on that patient. You have to make sure that you're not dealing with secondary type of headache. Yes, migraine, pwede pa rin yan sa mga matatanda, pero migraine would usually start on ages of 20 to 40 years old. So if you have a first-time patient complaining of a migrainous type of headache, 50 years old, 60 years old, you have to check if you're not dealing with a secondary type of headache. You have to check if you're not dealing with a giant cell arteritis. Remember, yung giant cell arteritis, yung may blindness or pain on the temporal area, no? That could lead to total blindness if not appropriately managed. Next O, onset in thunderclap presentation. So what do we mean when we speak of onset in thunderclap presentation? So, sorry. So when we speak of onset in thunderclap presentation, these are headache that would occur sudden, very abrupt on its maximum pain scale. So ano to? Parang few seconds and then sobrang sakit na siya. It's very maximal on its start of the pain is very maximal. Ibig sabihin, it's very severe. So, if you're considering a thunderclap presentation, you have to assess that patient properly because you might be dealing with the good example of a thunderclap headache would be a subarachnoid hemorrhage secondary to a ruptured aneurysm. So, this is a common scenario for that. Next, P, is there progression or change in the pattern? I would like to emphasize on this. I would like to emphasize on this. So, for example, you have a patient who is a known migrainer, and then he came back and told you that there's increase in the severity or there's change on the characteristic. Previously, it was described as throbbing. Pero this week, it's no longer throbbing, but it's already like a pressure-like pain. So if there's change on the severity, change on the frequency, change on the characteristic, you have to consider that you might be dealing with a secondary type of headache at the top of a primary type of headache. So baka magkaibang headaches na yon. Dati may migraine siya, tama? Pero ngayon baka iba na yung problem mo. No? So you have to check always if there's change on the pattern of the headache. Okay? Next, if I've emphasized this on the previous slides, if there is if the headache is precipitated by Valsalva maneuver, sneezing, coughing, or exercise, no, you have to check on the possibility of a secondary type of tumor, specifically any conditions that would increase your intracranial pressure, like if you're dealing with a mass or a large stroke. Okay. Next, is it aggravated by a certain posture? So if your headache is aggravated by standing, or is it aggravated by lying down, you might need to consider a type of headache that is secondary to CSF dysregulation. So any headache that could lead to increased intracranial pressure or low intracranial pressure. So this is a serious condition. Okay. Next, on your physical neurological examination, I would like to emphasize that as much as possible, you do your fundoscopy. Or you could refer your patient to our ophthalmology friends to check if there is pupil edema. So if you're dealing with pupil edema, so you're probably dealing with a secondary type of headache, secondary to increase in the intracranial pressure. An example of which would be tumors, no, or CNS infection. Next one, if you have a patient who's pregnant, no? So for pregnant women, for pregnant patient complaining of sudden headache, you have to make sure that you're not dealing with secondary type of headache. Ano ba yung mga pwedeng mangyari sa mga patients na may headache during pregnancy? So you might be dealing with stroke, you might be dealing with a tumor, no? How about painful eye? It's very important to ask if your patient has painful eyes during headache because that might give you a clue that you might be dealing with a headache secondary to acute closure glaucoma or a headache secondary to a cluster headache, which is a primary headache, or any headache that could affect your pituitary gland. So you have to make sure that you're not dealing with an intracranial tumor for patients with very painful eyes. Is there history of trauma or post-traumatic? So definitely you have to rule out traumatic brain injury. May I request everyone to please mute your devices? Thank you. Next, if there is phenotype of rare headaches, meaning if there is a typical presentation, no? If you're considering of migraine pero parang hindi lang siya migraine, hindi siya pasok sa criteria ng migraine. So you have to check on that. And also, you have to assess for painkiller overuse. We have this type of headache which is termed as medication overuse headache. So what is a medication overuse headache? This is a type of headache that occurs because of overuse of certain medications. So if you have a headache if you had a headache wherein your patient is having paracetamol for more than 15 days a month, it might be because of medication overuse headache. That's why it's very important also to ask the number of days that your patient is taking a pain medication. Because there is A diagnosis, remember this, medication overuse headache. And this is a very common cause of headache, or this is very common cause of factor which aggravates your headache. So for example, meron talaga siyang migraine pero inom siya ng inom, or meron siyang secondary type ng headache pero hindi siya nagpapacheck, inom lang siya ng inom, that could further aggravate or increase the severity of your headache. So that is medication overuse headache. Okay? Next, going back to our patients. We have 5 patients, just to recall. So you have one patient who's complaining of throbbing unilateral headache. You have a 75-year-old with pain and loss of vision. You have a patient with a band-like pain. Then you have a sudden worse of headache and a headache that is aggravated by straining. So if you would apply what we have discussed, which is Snoop 10, which among the following patients would you be thinking, would you be considering a secondary type of headache more than a primary type of headache? So which of these patients? So definitely the second patient, because of the blurring of vision and aggravated by chewing, you might be dealing with a giant cell arteritis. And then our fourth patient who's complaining of sudden worst headache of in his life. Remember the thunderclap headaches, and this might be secondary to a ruptured aneurysm. And the fifth patient, headache that is aggravated by straining. Remember, when you have a headache that is aggravated by coughing, straining, or sneezing, you might be dealing with a headache that is secondary to increased intracranial pressure. Okay? I hope we are clear on that. Do we have any do you have any clarifications or questions before we proceed with the next portion of our discussion? Any questions? Sorry, I cannot see the screen. If you have questions. Do we have questions, Dr. Jessa?
So far, sir, we have no questions, but if the audience has questions, you may type in our chat box. We
Okay,
will
thank
be
you.
addressing this, sir, after the end of the lecture. Thank you po.
So always remember that our physical examination and history taking would give us a clue, no? So you have to check if you have red flags or orange flags. And that would give us a clue if you're dealing with secondary type of headache. And if you have a secondary type of headache, that would give you a clue on the possible tests which you need to prioritize. Do you need to do a stat cranial MRI or a CT scan? Do you need to do a lumbar top? Do you need to do a chest x-ray or a cervical x-ray? Do you need to do blood tests? No? Do you need to refer your patient to ophthalmology to check on the papil edema or for fundoscopy? No? So our physical examination and history taking are very important to guide us, no, to check if we are having a primary or secondary type of headache. So always remember that if you have headaches with red flags, so Snoop 10, or headaches with a typical presentation, no, you have to consider a secondary type of headache and you have to advise them for appropriate diagnostics. No? So always remember, my dear friends, hindi lahat ng headaches pinapa-CT scan. Hindi lahat na nagko-complain ng headache pinapa-MRI. But you have to do this if your patient has a red flag or if you are considering a secondary type of headache. Or if you have a patient with a very atypical or not common presentation. So I want also to emphasize, when do we need an imaging? When is an imaging appropriate? And what type of imaging should we employ? Definitely, some of us are primary care physicians or are rural health unit doctors or midwives or nurses. Kailan mo i-advise na magpa-CT scan ng pasyente or MRI? No? So, if you have a patient complaining of worst headache of his life, Remember, this is an emergency situation because you have to consider the possibility of a ruptured aneurysm. So for this patient, we have to advise a head CT scan without contrast as an initial imaging test because we have to do it fast. No? And if you see the possibility, if you have done the cranial CT scan and it showed a subarachnoid hemorrhage, there is a recommendation to do a CTA or angiography with contrast. So basically, ang initial test po dapat para magawa ka agad ay CT scan without contrast. So if you have this type of patient, advise them to visit the emergency room of their nearest hospital with a cranial CT scan. How about a patient with a new headache with pupil edema? So remember, when you have a patient with pupil edema, you have to consider conditions that is secondary to increase intracranial pressure. So what are these conditions? You might be dealing with a tumor, with a stroke, no? With affectation of the arteries and veins in the brain. So a cranial MRI, a CT scan, may be ordered. No? Remember, not all hospitals do have MRI. So a cranial CT scan would be enough as an initial imaging. But if you have a cranial MRI, that would be better. No? And if you have considering a possibility of a cerebral venous thrombosis or affectation of the veins in the brain, a CT venography is advised. So definitely po, pag nahihirapan kayo, you could always refer to a tertiary center. You could always refer to a headache specialist or to your friendly neurologists. How about a patient with a new or progressive worsening of headaches with red flags? So always remember if you have a patient with red flags, so SNOOP 10, no, or a typical presentation, it's always good, no? It's always appropriate to advise for at least a cranial CT scan without contrast. Kahit yung plain CT scan lang, just to rule out the possibility of a serious condition like tumors, CVD, CVD or stroke, no? Or a vascular anomaly. Okay? Next, if you have a headache with trigeminal autonomic origin, ano po ba yung ibig sabihin ng trigeminal autonomic origin? So if you have a headache with pain on the eye, diaphoresis on one side of the face, no? Or ptosis on one side of the face. So autonomic symptoms can happen to a primary type of headache termed as cluster headache. Pwede pong mangyari yun sa cluster headache. However, they can also happen to tumors affecting your pituitary gland. So if you have a patient with autonomic symptoms, even though you're thinking that there's a possibility of cluster headache, it would be a good clinical judgment to at least advise that patient for a cranial CT scan at least once in his lifetime to rule out a possibility of a more serious condition. Okay? So how about a chronic headache? So matagal na siya nag-headache. 20 years old pa lang siya, 40 years old na siya, nag-headache siya. So should you do a cranial CT scan? So if you have a change on the characteristic, if you have a change on the severity, if you have a change on the frequency of the headache, there are times that you need to recommend a cranial CT scan or a cranial MRI. No? So even though your patient is a chronic migrainer or talagang na-diagnose na siya ng migraine before, but there's change on the pattern of the headache. So you have to further investigate. Okay? So always remember that if you're dealing with a secondary type of headache or with a typical presentation, a cranial imaging may be necessary. No? Always remember that you don't need to advise cranial CT scan to all types of patients. So if you're dealing with a primary type of headache like migraine, no, or tension type of headache, wala kayong red flags, no, a CT scan necessary. So always remember that if you're dealing with primary type of headache, cranial CT scan or cranial MRI is not mandatory. Pero sometimes imaging may be advised to certain population, even though you're dealing with migraine. So what are these conditions? If you have migraine with aura, so when we speak of migraine with aura, these are yung mga nagmamigraine na before sumakit ng ulo, nagkakaroon ng blindness or weakness, no? Or nausea or abdominal pain. And if the aura is prolonged, no? If it lasts for more than an hour, you have to consider the possibility of a more serious condition. So you can advise CT scan. If there is a change in the pattern of the headache, if there is worsening of the headache, if there is confusion, even though it's just migraine, no? For migraines with motor manifestations or weakness, late life migraine, meaning migraines which occurred 50 years, which started 50 years old and above, or migraine in the elderly, you have to check the patient and recommend a cranial imaging. That's to check if you're only dealing with migraine. So always remember as well, if you have a headache that is always on the same side, di siya nagbabago-bago kasi migraine would usually migrate from right side to left side, ikot-ikot siya. But if you have a side lock headache, meaning dun lang siya lagi at pasakit siya ng pasakit, you have to advise a cranial imaging to rule out more serious problems. Okay? And definitely, if you have a migraine patient pero you have an abnormal neurological examination, or you have fever, you have papal edema, or a patient who is pregnant or immunosuppressed. Remember Snoop 10? Those are the type of patients wherein we should recommend an imaging. Okay? So this is just a meta-analysis by Yu Zhang, and they discovered that only 8.86% of patients who had CT scan with migraine had a significant effect. Significant findings. So this is just to emphasize that not all patients with headache should undergo a cranial imaging. But ulit-ulit ko pong sasabihin, sino yung mga pasyente na yon? If we're dealing with a secondary type of headache, pag meron kang red flag, pag meron kang sa Snoop 10, or the presentation is atypical, you're not sure of your diagnosis if it's just migraine, no? If there is a typical presentation like what we have mentioned, if there is persistent aura, motor weakness, or special population like elderly, pregnant women, immunocompromised, those are the patients wherein we should recommend a cranial imaging. And the type of cranial imaging would depend on our consideration. So specifically, if you have a red flag sign, if you have a neurological deficit, the CT scan or the MRI should be emergent. Okay? It should always be emergent if you are considering a possibility of a more serious causes of secondary type of headache. I hope we're clear on this. No? So always remember, you have to correlate the findings on your history taking, physical examination, and their diagnostics to come up with your appropriate diagnosis. Going back to our practical approach, number 1, identify the type of headache. Alam niyo na kung primary or secondary. Number 2, recognize clues for urgent diagnostics. So if you're dealing with a secondary type of headache, you have Snoop 10, you have a red flag, or you have a typical presentation, you have to advise an urgent imaging. And then after that, you have to correlate our findings on the physical examination, history taking, and diagnostics in order to diagnose your patient properly, in order to plan for appropriate therapeutic and preventive options. No? So I would just like to give a scenario. On your history, you have a patient with sudden maximal worst headache of his life with associated vomiting. And on your physical exam, there is hypertension or nuchal rigidity. Pag finlex mo yung neck, there is pain on flexion, ang tigas ng batok niya. No? So what would you be thinking? So definitely, you're already thinking of a secondary type of headache because you have red flags, right? Worst headache of his life. So as that cranial imaging was done, a CT scan and then a CTA was done, which showed this is a sign for subarachnoid hemorrhage secondary to a ruptured aneurysm. So that's the diagnosis. So always remember, if you have a patient with a worst headache of his life, with hypertension, with nuchal rigidity, always consider the possibility of a subarachnoid hemorrhage. Second one, you have a headache patient with seizures who's a known user of OCP or pills. And then on your neurological examination, there is decreased sensorium, so there is focal deficit, and there is also pupil edema, which signifies signs of increased ICP. So based on your history taking and physical examination, you're dealing with a secondary type of headache, which needs urgent imaging. So a cranial imaging was done, and a CTV or a venography was done, in MRV, which showed signs of a venous sinus thrombosis. And this is a very urgent condition that could lead to uncontrollable seizures and even death. Next one, you have a patient with headache, with fever, photosensitivity, and changes on the level of consciousness. So this, you're dealing with a secondary type of headache. So and then you have signs of systemic infection. You have signs of meningeal irritation, meaning there's nuchal rigidity. So for this type of your patient, you're primarily thinking of a possibility of a CNS infection, no? And your CT scan showed hydrocephalus, no, as a sign of your CNS infection, which is common for patients with TB meningitis. So for this patient, you have to make sure that if you have a patient with systemic signs of infection and neurological deficit, you have to recommend urgent imaging and urgent interventions. Next one, you have a headache which is more prominent on lying down, and you noted pupil edema. Remember, and your patient also stated that the headache is aggravated by coughing, no? And then you did the cranial CT scan and you found out the possibility of a tumor. So remember, if you have a headache that is more prominent when lying down, especially in the morning, and headaches which are aggravated by Valsalva maneuver, you have to rule out the possibility of a condition causing increased intracranial pressure like a tumor. So also, I would like to emphasize, how can you be sure that you're dealing with primary headache? Remember, in primary headaches, in most of the times, you do not have a red flag sign unless the primary headache is atypical in presentation. So we have a criteria which we use in diagnosing primary headaches. No? Just for example, for patients with migraine, how do you diagnose migraine? Hindi lang pag masakit ang ulo, nasisilaw, migraine na kaagad yun. It's not like that. You have to check on the criteria set by the International Headache Society. Just for example, for a patient with migraine, the migraine attack would usually last for 4 to 72 hours, and it should be unilateral, pulsating, moderate to severe pain, and it usually aggravates the routine physical activity. And there must also be a nausea or photophobia. So if your patient does not satisfy this criteria, you have to rethink and reconsider your diagnosis. Are you dealing with migraine, or is there a possibility of another type of headache, or are you dealing with a secondary type of headache? So if you're interested more, actually, as a headache specialist, I do not memorize all of the criteria for the different types of headache because we have numerous headache phenotype. But you could visit, no, their website. They have downloadable PowerPoint presentations. They do have downloadable educational materials regarding the different types of headache. So ang mga common lang naman dapat nating malaman would be your migraine, your cluster headache, your tension headache, because we have to follow a specific criteria. Okay? So also, for screening, pwedeng sabihin nyo, mga ibang nanonood dito, na I think not all of us are doctors. Some of us are nurses or BHW or barangay health workers. So the IHS criteria may be too technical. So we have a very practical tool, which is ID migraine, which would help us screen if you are dealing with a probability of migraine. So this screening test has a sensitivity of 80% and specificity of 75. No? So if you have a patient, these are the questions that you would be asking. So you have to ask your patient for the past 3 months. No? For the past 3 months, sorry. For the past 3 months, For the past 3 months, do you have nausea? Nasusuka ka ba kapag ikaw ay may headache? Number 2, nasisilaw ka ba or is there photosensitivity or gusto mo nakapikit ka? No, kapag ikaw ay may sakit ng ulo or pumupunta ka sa room na madilim. And then the third one, does your headache disrupt, no, your activities? So if you have a patient whose answer is yes for 2 to 3 of the following questions, so 2 points or 3 points, you might be dealing with migraine. But definitely, you have to check for the presence of red flags. Because if you have a red flag sign, again and again, I would just like to emphasize, you might already be dealing with a secondary type of headache. Okay? So, remember your ID migraine. Check for ako, tinatandaan ko siya PIN. Photosensitivity, inactivity, or affectation of ADLs, and nausea. PIN. So, for migraine is not just an example of your primary headache. You also have your tension headache and your cluster headache. So, for the specific criteria, if you're interested, no, you could check on the website. Pero para lang clue, for migraine, it's usually unilateral. And usually, it has photosensitivity and nausea. For tension headache, the characteristic, it's usually band-like, no? And it usually occur after work, no? Or during stress. And cluster headache, it's usually unilateral, affecting the eyes with autonomic symptoms. So, anong ibig sabihin ng autonomic symptoms? Sweating on one side of the face, no? Or flushing on the one side of the face. So, these are the 3 most common primary type of headache. So, ito yung mga headache na usually wala kang red flag sign. So, if you have a red flag sign, it's already secondary type of headache. Okay? So, now let's proceed on the possible therapeutic options. And I think you're more interested in this. But before that, do we have any questions, Doc Jessa?
None so far, sir.
Okay. So I would just like to emphasize, to reiterate our approach. If you have a patient with headache, the first thing that you have to answer, are you dealing with primary or secondary type of headache? And to guide you on this decision making, you have to know what to look for. You have to ask the important questions. You have to check for red flags. And after that, if you have any red flags, if you have a typical presentation, you have to advise appropriate diagnostic conditions. And then the third one, you have to offer your appropriate treatment. So for secondary type of headache, you have to treat the underlying cause. If you have a tumor, if you have a stroke, that would the treatment would depend on the underlying cause. But definitely you have to um, you have to offer pain control. So for secondary type of headaches, we do control headaches with analgesics or other pain medications. But definitely, you have to check on the underlying cause. How about for primary type of headache, if you're dealing with migraine or tension headache? So basically, you could offer pharmacologic and non-pharmacologic options. But you have to make sure what type of primary headache are you dealing with. Are you dealing with migraine or tension headache? Because the medications would vary. But what I would like to emphasize, when you are treating with primary headache, like migraine, which is very common, you have to establish realistic goals to your patient. no? Kasi it's not always possible na mag-zero yung headache, no? Na hindi na maulit yung headache. Your goal is to decrease the headache frequency of at least 50%. No? That's your realistic goal for patients with primary headache. So what are the possible options? No? And how would you choose the appropriate therapy? So you have to consider the following factors. Number one, the type of headache. Is it a migraine? Is it a cluster headache? Is it episodic? Is it chronic headache? What are your patient's comorbidities? Meron ba siyang sakit sa puso? May asthma ba siya? For example, for migraine patients, chronic migraine patients, one of the prophylactic medications that we are giving is a beta blocker. So if your patient has asthma or heart block, no, we cannot give that medication. No? If your patient has an uncontrolled hypertension, you could not give sumatriptan. How about the medication history? It's very important to ask the patient, what medications have you tried already? You know, in headache medicine, we have to listen to our patient. We do not need to insist a certain medication if your patient have already experienced that medication. Lalo na yung mga matagal na yung masakit ng ulo, tatanungin mo, nag-paracetamol ka ba? Gumana ba siya? Nag-ibuprofen ka ba? Anong mas hiyang mo? Kasi that would also guide you in choosing the most appropriate medication. Next one, lifestyle. Is your patient a student? Is your patient working? Is your patient home-based? No? Kasi you have to consider this. Why? Because there are medications that could cause drowsiness. There are medications that could cause mental fag. No? For example, amitriptyline is given for patients with chronic migraine or tension headache. And some of the patients may feel drowsy for the said medications. Or yung patient mo, driver siya, kailangan lagi siyang alert. So you cannot give these medications. Or for example, your patient is a student or is a working professional. So you do not want to give medications that could affect his mental ability or cognition. So topiramate is a good medication for migraine prevention. However, it may cause mental fag on some patients. So personally, I do not recommend the use of topiramate for students or young professionals. Next, severity. So definitely, your choice of medication, especially for acute management, would depend on the severity, and we'll be discussing this on the next slide. Associated symptoms. So definitely, you should also consider if there's nausea or vomiting. So if there's nausea or vomiting, you have to avoid oral medications. You might want to consider medications given intravenously for patients with vomiting. For example, you are at the ER, your patient is complaining of severe migraine attack. So instead of giving paracetamol, you could give paracetamol IV with metoclopramide. Sorry, we would like to request everyone to please turn off or mute your microphones.
Mark.
Hello?
Okay lang.
Kindly turn off your devices po. Kindly mute the devices. So again, you also have to assess the effects of headache to ADL. So if your patient's already being if the activities are already being disrupted, you have to think of the possibility of giving preventive medications. We'll discuss that later. And also you have to ask your patient's preferences. Do you want oral medications or an IV medication? Or do you want to be referred to acupuncture, to physical exercise activities, etc.? And then also the family history. Remember, migraine is usually familial, no? So if there are medications that did not work for the patient's mom, no, usually baka hindi na rin yan mag-work sa pasyente. Kasi sasabihin niya, ay, nanay ko ganito po, pero hindi din siya nag-work sa kanyang ganitong gamot. Baka pwedeng iba, no? And then, expertise of the doctor or the healthcare provider. There are lots of treatment for migraine or primary type of headache, which we'll be discussing later. But definitely, you have to consider how confident are you in giving the treatment. So do not give a treatment or a drug in which you're not aware of or you're not confident to give. So I would like to emphasize that in headache, hindi siya dekahon. It should always be, excuse me, there should always be an individualized approach on your patient's type of headache and your patient's personal characteristics. No? So there are pharmacologic and non-pharmacologic options. No? And what I would like to emphasize is early initiation. Lalo na po, nandito kasama natin yung mga BHW natin at nurses. Mali po na iniisip natin na you have to drink medications when it is very severe. That's a wrong notion for headache. Always advise your patient to drink or to have the medication when the headache is just starting. Pag mababa pa lang yung pain scale at nararamdaman niya na masakit na yung ulo niya, kailangan niya nang uminom. Yun po ang tama. Because if you would be drinking the medication wherein the severity is already moderate to severe, there is a lower chances that the medication would work. Remember that. Huwag silang matakot uminom ng gamot basta tama yung iniinom na gamot at tama yung frequency. Another one, early initiation. It's very important. You know what is unfortunate? Some patients with migraine it would take a few years before they would be given appropriate medication. It would take few months to few years before they would get their preventive medication. And what would happen then? Sa migraine or tension headache, ayaw nating maging chronic. Kasi we have episodic, meaning sumusumpong lang. And then chronic, ibig sabihin, it would be more persistent. It could last for months. Ayaw natin na from episodic maging chronic. And the later the appropriate medication was started, there is an increased possibility that from episodic type, magiging chronic na yung headache mo. And we don't want that to happen. We want to prevent that. That's why it's very important to choose the appropriate therapy and give it on the early stages. So what are the non-pharmacologic therapies for primary type of headache? So definitely education or cognitive therapy. You have to educate your patient about his diagnosis. What are the possible triggers? No? So he could avoid it. Lifestyle. So lifestyle changes like adequate sleep, adequate hydration, exercise are important, no? For any types of primary type of headache. Ang pharmacologic, lagi niyang kasabay, kapartner si non-pharmacologic. Nutraceuticals or vitamins. So, ano ba yung mga pwede nating ibigay na vitamin to prevent migraine? So, usually for migraine, magnesium, vitamin
Tayo ka na
D3,
dyan. Punta ka na sa baba.
magnesium, vitamin B2, and even Mosigor. So, Mosigor is not just Mosigor does not only work as an appetite stimulant, no, for elderly, but Mosigor has a component that can prevent migraine. So for elderly patients, meron na migraine and you need to prevent headaches, you could give Mosigor. So dalawa na yung target mo, the appetite and the prevention of headaches. Next, exercises. Hydration is very important, no? Because dehydration may trigger your migraine. Then we also have neuromodulatory interventions, no? For headache. This entails another avenue of discussion. Yoga, relaxation techniques, or even acupuncture. So these are the non-pharmacologic options that we can offer patients with primary headache. How about pharmacological therapy? So in primary headache, we have two types of treatment. Ito po, lagi kong sinasabi, abortive and preventive. So ano po yung pagkakaiba? When we speak of acute or abortive, these are the medications given in order to stop the pain right away. So, eto yung binibigay na paracetamol, ibuprofen. Pag sumasakit ang ulo ng pasyente mo at gusto mong pahintuin ngayon din, that's acute. How about preventive? So, these are the medications given in order to avoid future headache attacks. And who are the patients given with preventive attacks? No? So usually these are the patients with chronic type of headaches. These are patients with episodes of 4 times of headaches in a month with moderate to severe type of headache. So kung sa isang buwan, nakaka-4 siya na headache or more than, tapos nakaka-disrupt na kanyang physical activity, you can offer preventive medication. Or even just one type of headache once a month, pero sobrang sakit at di niya nakakaya, you could offer preventive medications. No? So, we have to be confident in giving preventive medications. And if you're not that confident, you could refer your patient to a specialist. So definitely this would depend if you're dealing with tension, cluster, or migraine. But I would like to emphasize on your tension headache. So again, pag sinabi po nating tension headache, this is usually characterized by band-like pain and cervical spasm. No? So in my practice, I do usually give acetaminophen of 1 gram, ibuprofen of 400 to 800, or even naproxen. But if the headache is already chronic, for the past 3 months, it has been occurring for more than half of the month, no? We usually recommend preventive medication. And for tension headache, there's only one recommended medication, that is amitriptyline. We usually start 25 milligram half for patients who could not tolerate the whole tub. No? Yun po yung sa tension headache. And also for tension headache, we also give muscle relaxants, no? Like your eperisone, no? Your tizanidine, no? And personally, as a headache specialist, I do trigger point injection on the cervical muscles to help lessen the pain. Next one, which I would like to emphasize, is migraine. Kasi ito, marami po tayong na-encounter. If you're sure that you're dealing with migraine, what are the possible therapeutic options? You have sumatriptan, you have ergotamine, NSAIDs, or acetaminophen. So first, you have to make sure or ask what is the severity of pain. If the migraine attack is moderate to mild, you could try giving paracetamol. And what is the dose? Hindi po gagana ang 500 mg ng paracetamol. We should start at 1 gram, which can be given every 6 to 8 hours. That's 1 gram. Okay? Or you could also try ibuprofen 400, no? To 800 mg capsule, no? And usually, for patients with nausea or vomiting, pinagpa-partner ko po si paracetamol with ibuprofen. So if it is moderate at nasa hospital setting, it's more appropriate to give it via IV. So you give paracetamol 1 gram and Plasil of 10 milligrams. Okay? And hydrate your patient. That's for migraine. And then for migraine with moderate to severe type of migraine, usually, hindi nagagana si paracetamol. And usually, what is the recommended drug is sumatriptan or triptan. Sumatriptan is available in the Philippines. It is available in 50 milligram per tub. So, sumatriptan is very effective for acute headaches. Now, we usually give it for severe headache. You could give it 50 milligram now, then you could repeat the dose after 1 to 2 hours if the headache is still persistent. But you have to make sure that sumatriptan should not be given for patients with myocardial infarction, no? Uncontrolled hypertension, no? Because that could further aggravate your blood pressure. And then also, right now, currently in the Philippines, we have newer medications, your CGRP receptor antagonist. We have your Rimagepant. So these are newer medications that with fewer side effects. Di sila nakakataas ng blood pressure, pero they are on the expensive side. So we usually give this for patients who do not respond to the previous medications, but they are very effective. So if you have patients wherein you have already tried paracetamol, you have already tried NSAIDs, you could try Rimagepant. Rimagepant is given 75 milligram per tub every other day. No? And for preventive therapy, we use anti-epileptics like valproic, your topiramate, your beta blockers like your propanolol. We can do triptans also, and your Botox. Antidepressants like your amitriptyline, no? So these are examples of preventive medications. So for preventive medications, we give this for at least 2 to 3 months, and we could extend up to 6 months, depending on the patient's response. Remember, why do we give preventive medications? Because we want to avoid the chronification of headaches. And we also want to decrease the intake of acute or abortive medications. Remember, when your patient is taking too much medications na pang-acute like paracetamol, sumatriptan, ibuprofen, that could lead also to medication overuse headache. So I hope the attention is still there. We're nearing the end, no? So this is a practical guide made by one of my mentor, Dr. Marisa Bartolome. She is a Filipino neurologist practicing in Canada. So what is this traffic light of headache? So you can ask your patient, can you still go with your headache? That's green. Or yellow, you have to slow down and take a rest. Or you have to stop from your activities. This would guide you on the appropriate medications, abortive medication that you want to give. So if you have a green headache, pwede pa dyan ng paracetamol. If you have a yellow headache, pwede pa rin yung paracetamol. But for yellow headache, after 15 to 30 minutes, it does not respond, you could now give sumatriptan. But for patients with red flag, meaning hindi niya na kaya, kailangan niya talagang tumigil, sobrang severe, pain scale of 7 and above, you have to give triptan na already, sumatriptan. It's 50 milligram per tub. You may give it with or without an NSAID. In my practice, I usually give sumatriptan plus naproxen, 550 milligram or Flanax. And the combination is very effective. No? Triptan 50 milligram and naproxen of 550 milligram per tub. Okay? So these are just a newer guideline from American Headache Society, which I have already mentioned. And soon, we're hoping that the Philippine Headache Society would be releasing our guideline for the management of migraine, no? Made for primary physicians, general physicians, health workers, no? So you would be properly guided with the practical way to diagnose and manage migraine. It would be, I hope we could release that soon, no? So remember again that in choosing the appropriate therapy, you have to make sure what type of headaches are you dealing, and you have to consider the other factors based on your patient's profile. So based on our clinical scenario a while ago, patient number 1 is primarily dealing with migraine. So we have discussed that in migraine, you have to check for severity. If you could give paracetamol or sumatriptan na kaagad. No? And then for the third patient, band-like, so it might be a tension type of headache. So you might give paracetamols, muscle relaxants, no? And if it is chronic, you could give amitriptyline. So always remember that in primary type of headache, you have to consider giving preventive therapy for patients with chronic type of headache or with headaches of at least 4 with moderate to severe intensity. Or even at least 1 headache but very debilitating. You could offer your preventive medications. So after giving the therapeutic or preventive options, you have to monitor the response. And how do we monitor the response of our patients? In my case, I do usually ask them to keep a calendar or a migraine diary. So a migraine diary contains the dates na sumasakit yung ulo niya, the medications na ininom niya, ilang beses siya uminom, para makita natin if there is medication overuse component or if there is really improvement on the migraine severity and intensity. Remember, for chronic migraine, we have to be realistic. Our goal is to reduce the frequency or the severity by 50%. No? So kapag nililista niya rin, nakikita natin yung possible trigger. So this is a part of cognitive therapy with our patients because we want to empower them. We want to involve them on their own treatment. For patients who are much techier, we do have migraine body or different apps, no, that they can download on their phones in order for them to monitor their migraine attack. Personally, this is very helpful for my patients because sometimes iniisip nila, Dok, masakit pa rin yung ulo ko eh. Pero pag nakita may listahan, makikita mo, pababa ng pababa yung intensity. So there is improvement. And somehow, when they realize that, they would be more empowered and they would be more compliant to their therapy. Huh? So we also have different questionnaires like migraine disability questionnaire in order to assess the effect of migraine to your patient. We have the heat test. So these are all test questions. The higher the score, meaning the higher disability from migraine. So you could monitor this among your patients, no? And always remember to set realistic goals, no? Kasi maraming pasyente nagdo-doctor hopping yan eh. Gusto niya lagi may bagong gamot, no? That's not how you manage migraine. You have to check on your patient's profile and you have to be realistic. Okay? And always remember, I want you to remember the approach for migraine. But before that, I would like to emphasize among our primary physicians, among our nurses, among our BHW, when do you need to refer to a tertiary center or headache specialists? Number one, if you're dealing with a secondary type of headache. So if you have a red flag sign, don't hesitate to ask your patient to be evaluated by a higher center or a specialist. Because remember, some of the causes of secondary type of headaches are life-threatening. And most of these patients would be needing emergent imaging. That's number one. Number two, primary headaches which are atypical in presentation and not responsive to medication. So, di ba, as a doctor, binigyan mo na siya ng paracetamol. Pero tinry mo, hindi pa rin gumagana. So, you have to reconsider your diagnosis. Is the medication only not for the patient? Di lang siya ume-effect? Kailangan ko ba ng ibang gamot? Or baka naman mali yung diagnosis? So, if you're not sure why the medication is not working, please refer your patient to a specialist. Number three, if there is change in the pattern of your headache. So if there's a change on the characteristic, severity, intensity, do not hesitate to ask help from a specialist. And number four, if you want to consider other therapeutic options. For example, you have already tried oral tablets, no? And they are not working. You could refer your patient to a specialist so he could be given newer medications that can be given subcutaneously or can be given with via Botox. We could do Botox, no? Or trigger point injection, no? So do not hesitate to refer your patient. And also, number five, do not hesitate to refer your patient to a rehab specialist if you're dealing with muscle spasms, no, chronic pain, and also to a psychologist or psychiatrist. Because if pain is already chronic, some of these patients would have anxiety already or would have depression component. So these are the conditions wherein you might opt to refer your patients to a specialist. No? So I think I have taken a lot of your time and the information might already be too much. So before I end this lecture, I would like to emphasize on the key points that I want you, I hope that you can remember. So first, always remember our practical approach for headaches. Identify the type of headache. Make sure if you're dealing with primary or secondary type of headache. And if it is a secondary type of headache, you have to recognize clues for urgent need for diagnostics. So you have to identify if you have any red flag signs, if you have a typical presentation, in order to recommend for the appropriate imaging. And then the third one, you have to have an individualized therapeutic plan for your patient. For secondary type of headache, you have to know the cause. For primary type of headache, you could offer abortive and preventive medications, which includes pharmacologic and non-pharmacologic medication. And always remember to initiate the treatment as early as possible. And the fourth step, do not forget to monitor the response in order for you to check if there is a good response to medication or if there is already a need to refer a patient to a higher center. So I would like to end this talk with this powerful statement from a Japanese storyteller, Mr. Haruki Murakami. He said, "Pain is inevitable, but suffering is optional." My dear friends, um, we experience patients who are complaining of headaches. And some of these patients do have severe type of headaches. And headaches which could already disrupt their personal relationships and even career. So I hope after this talk, you're more confident to help them and offer them with possible solution because they should not just be okay with pain because there are possible solutions. So I hope after this talk, we can help each other in order to help patients end their suffering or lessen their suffering. Remember, pain should just be an option for everyone. Thank you and good day.
Thank you very much, Sir Paul, for a very high yield lecture. If the audience would want to ask questions, you may send your cues in the chat box. So, sir, let me just reiterate the key points that were emphasized in this lecture. So first, we discussed and we explained pain as above the orbitomyata line as generally considered headache. It could be primary or secondary based on our assessment if there's an underlying pathology or it could be an underlying medical condition, but both can exist coexist rather. What are the cues? We were also explained and we were introduced to the Socrates, which refers to the pain assessment model, the site, the onset, characteristic, radiation, associated symptoms, the time or the duration, the exacerbation or the relieving factors, as well as the severity. There are also red flags of headache, and we were introduced to the Snoop 10 guide, which we could use as guide in assessing headache. Again, in our approach to headache, we first identify what kind of pain or headache, recognize the cues, we plan therapeutic and preventive management, and we monitor the response. Also, Sir Paul has put emphasis on the correlation of the signs and symptoms as well as the imaging and the correct imaging that we should request for and the timing. So with that, we have, sir, few questions from the chat box. So first one po from Ma'am Hazel. I just want to know until when is the trauma history considered pertinent for headaches secondary to trauma? Or is there a particular time limit when to consider a headache as secondary to traumatic brain injury? Thank you po.
Okay. So for headache secondary to trauma, no? Um, Actually, just to simplify things, no? Um, For acute headaches, secondary to trauma, meaning a week or a 1 week, you have to consider bleeding or other acute things I could explain like bleeding or edema. No. However, even after months of trauma, headache can persist. No, we have syndromes for that. And for some patients with trauma, it may instigate the initiation of a primary type of headache, though the mechanism is not yet clear. So for some patients, nagkaroon ng head trauma na hindi naman migraine before, pero after that, magkakaroon na ng migraine. No? So actually, there is no specific, this is one of the gray lines in headache medicine. No? So you just have to make sure if it is acute, no? Acute ba yung relationship nyo sa TBI? So if it is acute, you have to make sure na there is no rebleeding or edema. But if it is months after, you have to check if there is already occurrence of a primary headache, no? Or a post-traumatic syndrome, no? In TBI. There is post-traumatic syndrome wherein your patient would have headache, episodes of insomnia, restlessness, which can be explained by the TBI. And this would also depend on the part of the brain which was affected on the TBI.
Thank you, sir. So I hope that answers for your question. Another po, sir. Hi, Doc. Good morning. May I know where to consult? Her mom po has a headache in the temporal area, and she has been having that for years. She's been consulting a doctor in the province, but no specific diagnosis or treatment was given. So when she was checking her vital signs, it was okay, and her mom has also insomnia.
So actually, there are doctors who are offering, even headache specialists who are offering teleconsult, no? Pero for headaches kasi, personally, I do encourage personal consultation. Because remember, for headaches, we have to check on the eyes, no? If there's pupil edema, in order to rule out secondary type of headaches. But if you are in the province, you could use, remember what we have discussed, the PIN, the migraine diagnosis, the 3 symptoms if you have migraine. So if you have 2 or 3 out of these 3 symptoms and you do not have a red flag signs, most likely it can be migraine. So if it is already chronic, no, if it is already chronic, you have to consider asking your doctor for a preventive medication. Especially if it is occurring daily, no, you have to ask your doctor about the possibility of secondary type of medication. And if your mother is elderly with a temporal pain, you have to check for affectation of the vision or if there is pain on touching the temporal side, no, because that might be a manifestation of temporal arteritis. So for that, we usually order for ESR and CRP. And we usually treat it with steroids. No? Yun po, ma'am.
Okay, thank you, sir. Another po, there is an increasing trend or fad in the use of magnesium and ashwagandha for the management of headache. Do we have any evidence for this?
Yes. Actually, nutraceuticals is one of the things that we have to focus more because nutraceuticals or these drugs do not have side effects and they can be given for a prolonged period of time. So as what I have mentioned, the most common medications which are supported by evidence that are available in the Philippines would be magnesium, vitamin B2, and even Mosigor. Okay, so this can help in prevention of migraine. Magnesium can also be given for patients with migraine in a sense that magnesium has a mood stabilizing effect. It has also a good effect on sleep. So remember, when you have migraine, you have to consider the triggers. And one of the triggers is any change on the sleeping pattern. So either masyadong napatagal yung tulog mo or hindi ka makatulog, that could trigger a migraine. So the effect like your magnesium could address the insomnia, the mood of your patient, the changes in the mood, and your migraine attacks. So yes, magnesium can work. So by the way, we have the drug Migranol. Hindi ako nag-advertise, pero Migranol, it's a combination of your magnesium plus vitamin B2 plus other minerals, which can be given for patients with migraine.
Thank you, sir. So another po. So is there any evidence that prolonged use of gadgets or social media can trigger migraine?
Okay. So, there is no direct relationship. It could not cause migraine, but it can, some in a sense na when you do have excessive screen time, sorry, excuse me, that could strain your eyes. And any pain can trigger your migraine. So, kumbaga ngayon may ubo ka, may sipon, may sinusitis ka, and that could trigger your migraine attacks. So, any pain can trigger migraine attack. And remember, ating lagi kong sinasabi, for patients who are migraineur, your brain wants to be very consistent. Any change in the routine, so kung nga change in the sleeping pattern, new pain, weight gain, or masyadong nabawasan, that could aggravate your migraine attacks. So any change in your current practice, that could lead to migraine attacks.
Okay, so thank you very much, sir, for all the responses, and I hope the audience we have learned so much from this discussion. Okay, sir, another po. So there's a question po, if a patient is currently pregnant at 8 weeks of gestation, bawal po ba ang sari doon?
Actually, for patients with pregnant, you have to consider first yung mga paracetamol because they are the safest one. No? Paracetamol, you could give it 1 gram. And personally, there is nothing wrong in giving combination drugs. But sometimes you have to give drugs on their individual component to check if saan mag-respond yung pasyente. No? So for pregnant women, paracetamol can be given. But if you're dealing with severe type of migraine, sumatriptan, which was before not recommended for women or pregnant women, is now considered safe for patients who are pregnant women, pero dapat ano lang sila, with controlled blood pressure and does not have a history of a cardiac disease. So paracetamol 1 gram muna po. You can try it. And hydrate your patient.
Okay, thank you very much, sir. So we hope this session has provided all our audience as well as our residents, co-residents, and doctors valuable insights into the complexities of headaches and how to better approach their prevention and treatment. So remember, managing headaches is not just about treating the pain, but also understanding and addressing the underlying factors that contribute to them. So with that,
Thank you, everyone.
thank you so much, sir. So we would like to present the Certificate of Appreciation, which read, Certificate of Appreciation is presented to Dr. Paul Emmanuel Eliambao for imparting his valuable knowledge and insights during the EQUIP Empowering Healthcare Workers through QMMC's Universal Healthcare Initiative Program. And this Equip series is entitled When Pain is No Gain, The Basics of Primary and Secondary Headaches, held this 29th day of March 2025, conducted at the Center for Neurological Sciences, Department of Adult Neurology of Quirino Memorial Medical Center via Zoom platform. Signed, Dr. Maria Victoria G. Manuel, the Chair, Center for Neurological Sciences, Department of Adult Neurology. Signed, Dr. Maria Tricia G. Bautista, the OIC Professional Education Training and Research Office of the Quirino Memorial Medical Center, and signed Dr. Evelyn Victoria Reside, Medical Center Chief. So thank you very much, Sir Paul, for your time and expertise and for sharing your knowledge as well.
Thank you.
So that concludes our session for this morning. Thank you very much and have a great day, everyone.